Meanwhile, grab your tea, grab your coffee, invite your friends, send this post about this if you would like them to have the same conversations you're having, and give us a comment about what you think was the craziest AI thing from this week in the comment right below. And we're going to get started in just a few minutes after some music breaks. Sorry about that. We're starting very soon, folks. Welcome, everyone, to ThursdAI. As always, I see Ray, I see LinkedIn. Hey, folks, welcome. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We actually already have a live stream going as well. So if you're more of a watcher than a listener, pinned to the top of the space is our live stream. And thank you, WNB Weave, for hosting the live stream. You guys can always follow that for the latest updates about the show. We're going to get started. There's so much to talk about. So much to talk about. Deep Research is currently cranking on giving me a research about the topics that we're going to talk about today. So we'll see how that went. I think it got lost. I think we're actually going to get started on time this time. We'll see. Alrighty, folks. I think it's nearly time. Hey, Wolfram, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. Wolfram, join our space as well, so folks can follow you as a co-host. And welcome. I'm very excited. I don't know if you're very excited as well. This week is quite big in the big companies news. Quite full. Folks who follow the thing, do you guys even remember that o3-mini was released on Friday? This was like a day after our show. We were expecting o3-mini to get released during the show. We're all excited. There are all signals to the fact that, OpenAI is going to drop o3-mini, and then they decided to do a Friday release and a Sunday release. What? Very uncharacteristic for OpenAI, the Sunday release from Japan, but we're definitely going to talk about it because to me it's one of the biggest things this week. Meanwhile, there's a few open source excitements as well, and Anthropic did something cool. I'm wearing this hoodie today. I don't know if folks see on stream. Let me see. Let me show if you guys can see it. This is a celebratory hoodie I got from Google I/O. It says Gemini for the congratulatory congratulations for Gemini 2.0 birthday, I guess. Which also we're going to talk about because those models are sick and the new flashlight is just absolutely incredible. But again, we're going to start in just a few minutes. So folks, stick with us. Give a like to the main tweet that announces the show. This helps us get in front of more folks and then join as well. And I really appreciate folks who are boosting. Thank you, Lincoln. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, other folks. This is really helpful for the algorithm to discover us. And yeah, we're going to get started. Maybe let's do 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes, folks, and we're going to get started. We need more folks in here. Alrighty, folks. I think it's time. Wolfram, what do you think of that? You think it's time? I think it's time.
It's time.
I think we've been waiting. All right, folks. The folks will come in. Welcome everyone to ThursdAI. Let's get started, and then we'll run through the TLDR of everything we have to talk about because there's a lot. So this is why we're gonna get started. Let's do it. Let's do our show. Woo! Welcome everyone to ThursdAI, your weekly AI news recorded live on X Spaces, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Hey, LinkedIn crowd, we always say hi to the 5 folks on LinkedIn. But hey, they're sharing and they're giving us like a lot of views as well. So hey everyone, welcome to ThursdAI. My name's Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist here with Weights and Biases, and with me, my co-host for today, Wolfram Ravenwolf. Wolfram, welcome.
Hello. I think we should get the LinkedIn crowd some special properties or something.
Absolutely, yeah. So maybe a hoodie. First of all, we need to print hoodies, and then we need to figure out if they're the first
Step by
person.
step.
Yes, maybe stickers first. Maybe stickers first.
Oh, yeah.
We have a huge amount of news to run through today, folks. Mostly from big companies and APIs. There's just, I don't know, at least in OpenAI land, there's like a bunch of stuff that happened this week. But also, Gemini released a new thing. Mistral, Anthropic finally came back with some research that was very interesting that we definitely should talk about as well. So a bunch of stuff to talk about. In the open source area, there's also people got very, very excited and super quickly decided to jump on and start replicating some stuff like deep research. So definitely worth talking about this. Wolfram, what was the highlight of your AI week this week before we get to TLDR?
So I personally, my favorite is the Mistral small model, because that is I have benchmark results and it is doing really, really good, better even than the Llama 70B. And o3-mini, that is second place on my charts at the moment. I will drop a sneak peek in the comments.
Nice. We definitely should show this. Mistral small was released a week ago. We talked about this, but now you actually like evaluated this, right? Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And
still
O3, yeah, and o3-mini is a new thing that we finally received. But also, we got O3, folks. We got full O3. Well, when I say we, I mean some folks who decided to pay for O1 premium for the purposes of like giving you the best news. Deep research from OpenAI is O3, so we definitely should talk about this as well. How about you folks in the audience, in the crowd? Tell us what was like the highlight of your AI week. We try to cover everything as much as possible. We have friends here who are doing a great job covering as well. So always shout out LinkedIn, shout out Ray, a bunch of folks who like follow everything. So definitely give them as well a follow. And then, but sometimes there's so much news that we miss some stuff. So we would love comments from the community as things happen as well. Like because we're live, oftentimes because we're live. There tends to be a breaking news of some sort, and so we also love if you tell us like, hey, this is what's going on. Last time this happened, OpenAI jumped on the live stream unannounced, and then people in the comments like, hey, there's gonna be a live stream, you guys should watch. And so we joined the live stream as well, so that was great. So definitely participate in the definitely please participate in the community in the comments as well. Really appreciate it. Wolfram, I think that we're good for the TLDR. I gotta wonder let's see if folks give us some comments, but I gotta wonder. Oh, interesting. Rob gave us a comment that says ACE++ from Comfy UI in face swapping and objective replacement. I haven't seen ACE++ actually, so we need to take a look. Noson says definitely deep research. I agree. I think for me the highlight was absolutely deep research, and I think that I've been absolutely impossible to let it go for the past.
Which one?
Since I got it.
The open one?
No, yeah, that's a good
the OpenAI one.
The OpenAI one. And one second, let me try to add. For some reason, space is not. We're having some issues, technical issues, folks. So apologies. I'm trying to get the co-host here, and I'm unable to for some reason. That's okay. All right, so I think let's get started with the TLDR. Let's do this, as they say. Because there's a lot of stuff.
Hey, Alex, can I ask a quick question?
I just no idea who's talking about right now. Sorry,
it's Nasan.
Oh, sorry. Nasan, can you give me a second, please? 1 second. Yeah, X is bugging on me right now, folks. So please forgive me. Just need to quickly test something. Reset, reconnect. There we go. Oh, we got the music again. Wolfram, let me invite you as co-host as well. Yeah, Nasan, feel free to send the question in comments, please, okay? Because right now I'm having trouble with some technical issues. Okay, I think we're good. Now. And let's go with the TLDR. Let's do the TLDR. All right, this is it. This is the TLDR of everything that we have to talk about on ThursdAI for February 6th. February 6th. This is the first show in February. This is everything that we're going to cover. If you don't have the couple hours that we're here to sit with us, you feel free to absolutely kind of listen to the TLDR and follow up later. Just a reminder, after the TLDR, everything, all of the links and everything is getting posted on ThursdAI.news, so you don't have to miss a beat. Let's run through our regular scheduled kind of segments. I actually don't have anything for agents this week, but open source LLMs has been very interesting. No huge releases. It feels like people are still waiting for the aftershock of R1. R1 seems to be like the biggest news this week. The biggest news for the past couple of weeks, and many distills and very interesting things. So I want to highlight that we're going to get to it in other segments, but deep research from OpenAI was released. And since then, I think like 3 or 4 different people, different attempts dropped deep research clones. So Gina, our friends from Gina, they do like embedding models, and Gina Research did a Node deep research clone. Hugging Face started an attempt to do open deep research. I think there's like at least 3 or 4 other ones. They're all claimed to be basically doing the same thing, although I think that deep research is a little bit different. So we're going to chat about this as well. And also a few folks like Deep Agent R1V and Simple Scaling S1, they started replicating DeepSeek's R1 kind of architecture. And that's very, very interesting because they claim to get to this aha moment that R1 has gotten to, that we've talked about, where R1 basically realizes that it does the thing incorrectly and thinks again. Basically like understanding its own thought. Like a very interesting moment that they had it in the paper. The folks from Deep Agent claim to replicate this aha moment for $3. Yep, $3. It's crazy, right? Like nothing costs $3 anymore. Like it's half a coffee in Starbucks. And they claim to you are able to replicate. I think they even posted like a GitHub and everything. So they claim that you can witness the aha moment of a VLM actually for $3 as well. We also have a very interesting release from Crew Team. Crew Team, their tagline is India's own LLM, and they have released a few models. Crew Team 2 12B, Chitrath for the VLM. They have embeddings and then a bunch of stuff. And they released like all of this, and I started looking at should we report on this or not. As you guys know, we focus mostly on state of the art. And then I saw a bunch of folks comment that, hey, they've cloned without shame something like IndicTrans, which is translation, and then they claim that they're better. So very interesting release there from the Indian folks, and also not state of the art or anything. So apparently this company received like a lot of investment, and they release some models in the open source, which is great. We're not gonna like dunk on open source too much, but hey, when you take somebody's work and that's MIT and you don't even mention this and call it yours, this raises some questions in the community. So that's Crew Team. And I think the last thing in the open source that I had is Ace Coder, which is reinforcement learning for code models specifically. It's very interesting. For some reason, this model claims that like nobody had models to create high quality code training data with instruction and test cases. So this one is a reward model, and based on this reward model, they also built a model as well. So this is in the open source. And then, oh yeah, and simple scaling. I mentioned simple scaling. Simple scaling is very, very cool. They fine-tuned Qwen 2.5 32 billion parameters on 1,000 examples of basically like reasoning and chain of thought, and they got to match to O1 preview, and they exhibit test time scaling with something called budget forcing. The model itself controls the test time compute it allows for things. It's extremely cool. It's extremely cool. The author of this paper, this is a paper, I don't believe they released the model, is Nicholas Mengenhoff. He worked at Allen, and he was here actually. So we interviewed Nicholas before. That's pretty cool. Afterwards, after the open source, actually, debatable whether or not we should do open source first, as we always do, or we should jump into the big companies, because this company, this segment of the show, big companies and APIs, were absolutely killing it this week. And so we're going to cover OpenAI. We're going to do chronological, right? So like just to not have favorites. On Friday, a day after ThursdAI, OpenAI shipped o3-mini and o3-mini High. Two new models, two new reasoning models. We knew about them since, I think, like the Christmas releases. I think they announced it, right? At the end of the Christmas, they're like, hey, we have o3 and o3-mini. So we're going to chat about o3-mini and o3-mini High. They're now available to pretty much everyone, and not only in the Pro. Also available in the API as well, and those models are great. Some folks already built it into multiple places. Price-wise, they're also dropped the price as well, so we're going to chat about those. And then OpenAI in a completely, I think this is like the main news of this week's conversation, and we also have a new friend here with us, Daria Unutmaz. Daria, I'm going to add you as a speaker as well, so you guys will see. OpenAI released something called Deep Research, which is, Wolfram, like you said, not to be confused with Google or Gemini's Deep Research. Deep Research from OpenAI is a new reasoning agent that is built on o3. So this is actually the first time that we have o3 that we can use, confirmed by OpenAI folks, and I've been absolutely blown away by the amount and the results of this. Not only me, we have some more folks here, so when we get to this, Daria, we would love to chat about Deep Research and your experience with this as well. And then just a day ago, Google finally shipped Gemini 2.0, 2.0 Pro, which we remember as 12.06 experimental. I think they changed it a little bit. 2.0 Flash and 2.0 Flash Lite, which is a new model, which is basically kind of the same, just like way faster and cheaper than Flash. And so we got three new kind of official models. Very interestingly, one of them is in GA, one of them is in preview, and one of them is in research preview or something like this. They're all like, they have these labels for releases, but basically you can use all of them. Again, finally, we're getting some stuff from Anthropic. Anthropic released something super cool. It's called Constitutional Classifiers. It's a research they did to basically have a universal jailbreak prevention. Universal jailbreaks are jailbreaks that are always applicable. And universal jailbreaks are very hard for models to kind of mitigate against. And Anthropic did some cool research that we should talk about. They also posted a jailbreak me type like website that folks can go to and kind of jailbreak. And then there are some interesting things happening there as well. So a few more things on the big companies, and then we can skip and this week's buzz. And then I have one huge thing in AI, art, and diffusion world. Cloudflare is going to protect websites from AI scraping. I don't know if you saw this, but folks maybe have missed it. There's a article on Fortune, so we're going to talk about this. Cloudflare will basically block traffic for AI scrapers, which is crazy. And as you guys know, these like AI scrapers are built on the web. I really want to know what's going on with like agents in this world. Very interesting. And then Hugging Face becomes the first AI app store. They claim that in their app store, in Hugging Face Spaces, they have around 400,000 AI apps, they call them. Those are graduate spaces, but they call them AI apps. So they claim to become the first AI app store. And the last thing to shout out is Cursor becomes the fastest growing SaaS ever in the history of SaaS. It's absolutely crazy. With 2 months or something to get to 100 million ARR, or like just an insane growth. In less than a year, sorry, not 2 months, less than a year, they got from 1 million ARR to 100 million ARR in Cursor, and absolutely deserved because it's absolutely ridiculous. Then we're going to skip to this week's buzz, the category where I update you about everything that happens in the world of weights and biases. And there's the two things. First of all, AI Engineer. If you guys are coming to AI Engineer in New York, and you should, because this is probably the best conference for folks, this one is going to be focused on agents. And yours truly is going to do a workshop there on evaluation. I just got word that my workshop was accepted. Interestingly, we're also sponsoring this event, but this is not a sponsored workshop. So I got in without the sponsorship. Yay. So I'm going to run the workshop of evaluations. If you're there on Saturday in New York, please join the workshop. I would love to see you and kind of like talk about evals as well and learn. If you're there generally in AI Engineer, kind of conference, please feel free to come and say hi and come to our booth. And also, just immediately afterwards, I'm flying to Toronto with my friend Nistan here. I'm going to see him. And then we're going to do 2 workshops with AI thinkers in Toronto, one on Sunday, one on Monday. So if you're in Canada and you don't want to fly to the States because of, I don't know, tariffs are annoying you or something, you can you can come to Toronto and meet with the ThursdAI hosts, where me and Nistan will meet for the first time. Maybe we'll record like a little episode. We're still in the TLDR, folks. We're skipping to AI art in diffusion, where my mind broke this week absolutely with my jaw on the floor. To this day, I recorded like a 10-minute video about this. I'm going to gush about all of this today in the show. For that section, I'm okay with you being in spaces. For that section, I would ask you to go on video with us, because that's mind-blowing. ByteDance released something called OmniHuman-1, which is a human animation model, basically taking one image and some audio and turning this into somebody that speaks. I've never seen anything like this. I've been doing this for more than 2 years. I followed this specific space from WAV to Lip, that like I followed this like avatar like space for a while. I've never seen anything come close to OmniHuman. This is just like, I don't know, they punched a hole in the simulation, like multi-universe or something. It's insane the level of detail they are able to generate from just one image. And then we have some tools updates. Mistral released a few iOS apps and Android apps, which is pretty cool. And then Replit launches their free apps agents for everyone. So basically everyone can build with Replit agents. Just a little bit of stuff this week, just a tiny bit, a bit of a list. And I think that because we have a guest here that wants to talk about open deep research, I think that this is what we're going to open with. And then we're going to skip to open source afterwards. Because I think that, as you guys know, we're focusing on open source in ThursdAI. However, this week absolutely was controlled and like weighted by big companies, OpenAI, Gemini as well. So we will definitely start there, I think. And I think we'll start with just introducing our new friend here. Let me see if I can show you guys the screen as well. I want to say hi and welcome to, first of all, the co-host that joined on Space, LDJ Nistan, welcome.
Hey, hello.
Hey, everybody.
And also we have a new friend of the show, Dr. Daria, with us as well. Doctor, feel free to unmute yourself and say hi to folks and maybe introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the invite.
Welcome. The reason why I invited you specifically is because I think we found a mutual excitement in the world of deep research, and you posted that you had some early access as well, and you were like getting blown away. And I'm using deep research basically like, you know, like a monkey. I have like some stuff to research, etc. I research the show. You actually do actual research, and so I would love to kind of like chat with you about what this means and how are you accepting this, and kind of like I think you talked about patents as well. So maybe let me start with like an introduction to this, and then we'll chat about what this means and how this performs. So on Sunday, I think it was Sunday, OpenAI from Japan released a new update. Just a few days after they released o3-mini, OpenAI decided to kind of give us their second agent after OpenAI's operator. This agent does research on the web for you. This is an O3 based agent, so this is also the first time that we're able to get to O3 and talk to O3. And this agent browses the web for you and is able to follow after some links to other categories and like follow with some other questions as well. And it gets an absolutely ridiculous 26% on HLE. If you guys remember HLE, we just talked about this. This is an eval benchmark called Humanity's Last Exam. It has 3,000 multiple choice questions from like 1,000 experts around the world. Before deep research and before o3-mini, the highest score on HLE was around 10%. O1 and R1 from DeepSeek basically got like 9-ish% as well. Deep Research gets 26% on this very, very supposedly very high. They called it Humanity's Last benchmark, Humanity's Last exam, and now like it's already like saturated for 26%. Deep Research gets an insane amount on there. Gaia is another public benchmarks for real world questions for Deep Research, kind of like type models, and so they get like an unprecedented level of like I think 78% on Gaia, something crazy like this. And so deep research basically is an agent for research that is confusingly named because there was also a deep research from Gemini, and it is, I would just say, mind-blowing. Wouldn't you agree, Daria?
Yeah, I mean, mind-blowing doesn't really explain it. I think it's an understatement. It's really something quite amazing. So maybe I'll start with a few examples. I mean, I have so many. I'm just trying to think where to start. So yeah, I had early access Friday night, I think, from OpenAI. Of course, I couldn't speak about it until it was released on Sunday night. But I was literally using it nonstop. I might have crashed their service, maybe. I mean, the first things that I tried was because this is obviously trying to do research, and I'm a big user of o1 Pro, and I've been using ChatGPT since the early days of ChatGPT 3.5. So I'm pretty familiar with what to ask and what kind of prompts.
If I'm not mistaken, sorry to interrupt, you're one of the folks who got early access to o1 as well, right? I think I remember something like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had early access to o1 preview and also o1 Pro. And I have to say, like, I'm as much excited, maybe even more, with deep research. So the first thing I did was to ask deep research, sort of write a report on a given disease. I study a couple of diseases, working on various projects. So one of the things that I asked about, which I actually shared on Twitter, X, is a disease called chronic fatigue syndrome. This is something that I've been studying for a decade. It's poorly understood. It's quite similar to long COVID. Patients suffer for years and years from fatigue and all kinds of problems. And we've done quite a bit of work. So I actually uploaded one of our papers, and I said, just find me everything you can about this disease and the recent developments. It took about 10, 15 minutes. And, it came out with this report. Actually, I'm going to call it review, which probably was the best review I read on the topic. And as I said, I've been working on this for a decade, and I think I was one of the first researchers to really take it seriously. So that was already like, wow, this is something really special. And actually, also read our paper and sort of integrated that with what's known in the current literature and so on. And then I asked somebody on Twitter asked me about a disease called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So that it's thought to be a genetic disease. It's kind of rare, and it's not really understood what's going on with it. So I did the same thing with that, but this time I did something a little bit different because I didn't really know much about that disease. I said, not only do a review and very extensive what's going on with this disease, treatment and diagnosis and all that, but also identify the top 10 questions, like what is the gaps in knowledge, what is it missing that we need to learn, and then propose some potential approaches, experimental or scientific approaches. And again, I also shared that on X, and it was just, I mean, from what I can read, it was really, really remarkable. And so the questions were very insightful, and I think that's going to be extremely important for people who are doing scientific research or any kind of research for that matter, because it not only understands what's going on and very up to date, and very quickly identifies, so these are the missing links. And as a researcher, that's really invaluable for us. I mean, it's impossible for us to read even on our very narrow field, being up to date what's going on, let alone trying to figure out what's missing. So we come up with ideas, and then we have to go back to the literature, see if there's somebody else did that. So along the same lines, at the time I was also working on a project. It's actually a grant application. And grant applications take a long time because you have to come up with all these aims and ideas, and then again you have to know all the gaps. You have to have extreme understanding of the literature, what's been published, and so on. And so this is obviously something very, very close to my expertise. And again, I basically gave deep research my aims. I said, these are my specific aims. I'm working on a project for this, but go and find, what's known about it. What am I missing that I should include in this grant? And again, 10, 15 minutes later, it came out with, a very extensive report, and actually several new discoveries or ideas that I wasn't aware of.
Wow.
These were very recent, and this is something that I work day and night. And actually, two of those ideas we've now included in the project, and we submitted the grant. We'll see how it get reviewed. But I have a collaborator, and she actually messaged me. She said, "Wow, this is such a great idea. I went back and looked at my data, and then I just discovered that what you included there is actually validated in our preliminary data." So we took that preliminary and included in the grant as well. So to me, that's just unbelievable. I mean, I would have totally missed out on that.
Wow.
I'll keep. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, no, I definitely have a bunch of questions as well. I just want to tell folks, just to kind of pause here, because many folks stepped in now while you were talking as well. You're unlike me, who's a talking head on X and also does some research in evaluations for AI. You're an actual researcher, you're a scientist, you're a professor as well, and you're saying that you are using deep research in your fields, but also in fields that you're not necessarily familiar with, right? You're getting questions, I guess, on X. So this Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I think somebody prompted you to just because of your access as well. And I've had the similar thing happen to me. Once I got excited and I talked to people about deep research, people just started sending me prompts, and some doctors asked me for very specific things. Their mind was blown away as well. And so I think that just from a perspective of how good this is, at least on the surface level, you can get a 10,000 word essay in 8 minutes or 10 minutes, and deep research goes and research and gives you all of the citations as well. The one thing that I loved particularly, you may speak to this as well, they use the Chrome URL type thingy where you can highlight the whole section. And so somebody built in this feature in deep research where it goes to, let's say, archive, finds the right paper in the HTML format, and then the link that it gives to you links you to the exact paragraph that it focuses on. So the citations is that was incredible to me. That was just a first time I experienced something like this. And one more example is that the field that I kind of doing talks in is LLM evaluations. It found papers on the topics that I wanted to talk about from archive that I didn't even know existed. And I think that this is a big thing, because I've tried the same prompt. I don't actually have access to Gemini deep research, but I've tried the same with Perplexity. I tried the same with regular search for o1, and o3-mini also support search. They don't do in nearly any of this level as far as I'm aware. Did you try the Gemini deep research before? How would you compare the two?
Yeah, of course I've tried that. No, this is a completely different level, because what's really special about deep research, and I think it's based on O3 model, is that it's very smart. It's like having a professor or a total expert in the field doing research for you, or working for you as an assistant. Because from the example that I gave you, and I'll give you more examples, these are topics that I consider myself an expert. I've been working for decades on these things, and the review or the report it writes is from another colleague of mine who's equally expert, or maybe even more expert than I am. And I went through the whole thing that it wrote, and I couldn't find anything that was wrong, because, as you said, it gives you the the links, and actually you can specify and say, okay, just search for the scientific journals, like peer-reviewed journals, so that it doesn't go up, news sites or whatever. So all of the references were completely appropriate, which actually I actually included those citations in the grant applications, by the way. Yesterday, a reporter from Nature, which is like the top journal in the world, scientific journal, called me, and basically, this is what I told her. I said, you guys have a lot of review journals, like, because we write reviews occasionally on the topic. So, you go through like a couple hundred papers and you try to synthesize all that, because nobody has time to read all those papers, and you're the expert, so you can really process that and then synthesize it. And so these reviews are very valuable for anyone following the field. I told her, basically, you should probably consider shutting down all your review journals, because there's absolutely no need for it. I mean,
Wow.
what's the point of writing a review, spending weeks of your life, sometimes months, actually. And I've written reviews before, quite a few of them. I just don't see any point, because first of all, by the time you write the review and by the time it gets reviewed and then gets published, already like months passed and your review is already out of date. Here, you can get a real-time review on any topic, any scientific topic, very deep, because you can also say, well, this is only for the experts, or this is only for the lay person. Like the reviews that I had it prepared for, these chronic fatigue syndrome and Ehlers disease, were more kind of, I told deep research, make it such that people who are not expert in the field can understand it. But then I did things that I'm interested in a very high level language. So those were, superb reviews. And then another example is, I had somebody I knew called me on Sunday. People I know, or some people that are who are my acquaintances or friends, occasionally call me to get some input on their diseases, whether it's a cancer treatment or immunological diseases or whatnot. And I try to give my best opinion about it. So this person called me from Europe and wanted to talk about his cancer, which I knew about, but he wanted to get some, is there a new treatment for it, or any way that I could give him some new suggestions. And then, unfortunately, his brother also got another type of cancer that happens after transplantation, and that was something that's totally in my field. I knew much better about that particular cancer type, and he wanted to know about whether there's some new treatment protocols for it. So right at that when he called, I was working with deep research. I said, you know what? If you allow me, if you give me the permission, I want to put your, symptoms and the lab values, and I want to ask deep research this new model that I'm testing from OpenAI, which is going to be released in a couple of hours.
Oh,
and he said, of course, So in real time, I uploaded both of these cases. Without identifiers, of course, to keep privacy, and
you just dumped it
just the
in
symptoms.
context, right? Like there's no upload.
Yeah,
Like, documents.
exactly. Well, you can actually upload documents. So you can upload PDFs, or that's definitely possible.
Wow.
So the lab values that were actually PDFs, and then some of it I uploaded that way. Anyway, so deep research wrote this, again, really impeccable reports on both of these cancer types, listing every potential treatment. But this is not like, okay, well, this, I don't know, breast cancer stage 4, these are the treatments you can do. It was really personalizing to that person's disease, knew what the mutations were, knew what the treatments that they have used. So was saying, okay, well, there is a new treatment that could be utilized on top of that, or if that doesn't work, if the tumor size is not growing, then you can switch to this tumor. And the other one the one that his brother got, which is again something that I know quite well, suggested actually it was a suggestion that I was going to make, a very novel therapeutic, which is experimental, but I think has a promise. And that's the first thing he came up with. He said, "Well, you should try this because and it gives you all the reasons why this particular treatment or this diagnosis or this biomarker makes sense in the context of that person's disease." And it even gave me like locations which are running the clinical trials in Europe, so my friend can go and actually talk to them. And he was blown away. He said, "I'm just so thankful," and he's actually going to go back to his oncologist. And he said, "I've been to, I don't know, 10 different oncologists. I never got anything so clear and so articulate before. So now I start to understand what I need to do."
Wow.
To me, that I have to say I got even emotional about it, because it's conceivable that somebody's life is going to be saved because of that.
I'm just imagining
And
kind of the next few iterations of this, right? So let me just try. It's impossible to recap. Your excitement was like palpable on my timeline as well as mine, for not related, like again, not research purpose statements for science. But the excitement was palpable because this feels to me like another ChatGPT moment. At least that's how I experienced this week.
Yeah,
I
that's
absolutely
exactly what I said.
wasn't able to stop deep researching on any absolute topic. I researched anything from the testing scenarios. A friend of mine asked me, what happens if China and US go into the war right now? Who wins? Give it ask deep research to do an analysis. I got a 10,000 word analysis with like all different kind of strategic things, and then I also researched kind of restaurants in Denver as well. There's no reason to abuse this like level of power for this research, but I just wasn't able to stop. Partly because O3. And O3 is like, this is our first access to O3 as the model itself, and it's so absolutely smart. And the other one is, first of all, thank you for telling us that documents are able to get uploaded. I did not know this. I just pasted all my stuff in the context.
There is one trick though, because the deep research, it's a little bit confusing. Deep research uses exclusively O3 model, but you can actually start from, I don't know, ChatGPT 01 or GPT-4o. People think that, well, if I choose O1 Pro, it's using O1 Pro. That's not the case. But if you just choose GPT-4o, then you can upload documents, because like O1 Pro doesn't allow you to upload PDFs. So that might be a little bit confusing, but yeah, you can.
And the thing is, like, the sources links are incredible, but also, I don't know. This feels again like I wasn't able to stop using this just for the O3 like level. I wasn't able to trick it to just give me O3 though. Like, it was always doing research, and sometimes it would like search stuff, even though I provided the context for it. So yeah, there's definitely also hallucinations as well. So folks may listen to us and say, hey, like we just like broke through a frontier, and I absolutely think we did. There's also, let's talk about limitation. I think you mentioned one important one. This doesn't have access to like gated research as well, which is like a big problem, right?
Well, that's a problem, but that's not the problem of OpenAI. In fact, I think I linked to Sam Altman as well. If they could do something about this, that would be unbelievable for scientific research and for humanity. And I have to say, I'm very adamantly passionate about this closed wall scientific papers. This is just unbelievably unfair. Yeah, and let me tell you why. We are the ones who do the research. Taxpayers pay for the research. So our scientific research costs millions of dollars. We spend years of our lives. We find discoveries. We write the paper. We put all the figures together. We send it to this gatekeeping journals. I know they're gonna hate me for this and probably will ban me, but I don't really care. I don't even publish them. And then then they send it to a bunch of reviewers. I reviewed, I don't know, hundreds of papers. I do it completely free of charge. I don't get any compensation for it. I spend hours of my life. Then I send those reviews back, and all the journal does is that decides whether based on my review to accept or not accept. So let's say they accepted it, and then nowadays, I mean, maybe 20 years ago, you could say, well, it was a printed form, so they have cost associated with it. Now all they do is that just do a digital alignment and then publish it online, right? So the costs are extremely.
Oh,
I think you cut out.
yeah, it looks like we
I mean, how crazy is that?
oh, you're back.
And not only that, I have to, if I get accepted because of the amazing prestige of whatever the journal is, I have to pay thousands of dollars just to get it published. I mean, what kind of situation is this? And then nobody who is interested in that paper can access it free of charge. They have to pay like $30-$40. It's behind the paywall. I did the research. Taxpayers spend the money. I paid to get it published. Reviewers did it for free, and then the journals put it behind a paywall. There's nothing like that. I mean, I don't think public understands what kind of unbelievably unfair situation this is, and what a great barrier in front of progressing science from a scientific journals. Anyway, sorry for the rant, but this is like really,
no, it's all good. But I
gets
think
on
it
my nerves.
ties directly into kind of the deep research and
Yeah.
just AI agents in general that scour the web.
Exactly. It does. I mean, just to point out that it does go to. It does scan the journals behind paywalls, but only abstracts are available. So it tries to extract whatever it can from the abstract. Of course, not the same thing as going deep into the paper. So if that was to open up, I mean, I don't know. I mean, deep research would just jump a couple of levels.
Yeah, go ahead, Nistan. You have a question as well.
Dr. Unutmaz, on this point, you've still had a very good experience with it while you were using it. And even though it only has access to the abstracts, but I believe you've looked at the other sources. Is it using stuff from Mayo Clinic? So has the open access stuff improved these days? Was it using stuff from doctor blogs? So because you still had a good experience. So I want to know more about what other sources did you find in it that made it good?
Yeah, so I want to qualify what I said, because many scientific journals are not behind paywalls because actually NIH forces us to make it, forces the journals to make it open access, but we have to pay extra money for that too, from our grants or whatever. So a significant portion of these become available, but unfortunately still, for example, if they were published in the last 6 months, I mean, there's a significant portion of these papers that are behind paywalls. But still, it is able to access a lot of open journals. I mean, and there's quite a bit of it. And then these paywall journals, they have to make it open access after a certain time, or if the NIH wants them to do it. Actually, there's a new rule from NIH now that every paper that's get published must be immediately available, because the rule has to be available within 12 months. But still, I mean, we are missing some very, very important papers. I just want to qualify that it does go to other websites, like it would look at the Mayo Clinic or some other websites that are summarizing the topics. But you can actually, because it asks you a bunch of questions after your query or your prompt. It says, well, do you want me to just focus on peer-reviewed scientific journals, or do you want me to also look at preprints? Actually, that's really important, because a lot of papers are published as preprints, even if they get published after as a peer-reviewed. It will still remain. I mean, I put every paper that I publish as a preprint so people can actually access it. It may not be the very final version of it, but still, so you can say, okay, just focus on preprints or preprints plus peer-reviewed scientific journals, but don't look at any other websites. I mean, and it will do whatever you tell it to do.
I want to highlight another person that was like flying off the charts with like deep research as well. Folks may know Siki Chen. Siki Chen is, I think, an investor and runs a company, and he has a daughter with a very rare condition, and he basically said that like within one day, O3 and deep research exceeded the value of 150,000. He pays a private research team to research craniopharyngioma treatments for his daughter. And he talks about like deep research giving him some absolutely incredible like review as well. So it definitely feels again like ChatGPT moment, but only, folks, I want to highlight not only for research. Dr. Williams, thank you for like highlighting this like aspect of this, but this is not only for like scientific research as well, although that's where it's great at. I asked it to give me some notes on different things. I asked it to research some the topics for ThursdAI this week. The ability of this agent to go on the web and search and come back is absolutely incredible. The citing is incredible. The follow-up questions, like you just mentioned, it's also like I think this is the first time that I experienced a model that like tells me how to focus it. And I think that those really, really help. So basically for folks who don't pay the $200 like we do, and they don't know what we're talking about, when you send a deep research kind of like request, I'm pretty sure that they have like a prompt augmentation behind the scenes, that they take your request and like make it actually like a good plan for the model to go. But then they ask you follow-up questions about this specific topic, asking you to focus on, like you said, maybe like, would you like previews or scientific reviewed papers? In my case, it asked me like which websites to look at, if etc. And then what I sometimes do is I don't even kick off the research. I just like take those kind of clarifications, put them in my original prompt, and kind of start a new research thing. And so then I already have like a little bit more. So I basically do the sharpening of the prompt multiple times to get a result. Absolute mind-blowing statement release. Yeah, go ahead.
In a similar way, I posted this on Twitter. Just I think it was yesterday. So I had deep research prepare a patent application for a friend of mine who discovered a cancer drug. Literally, it has this chemical formula and all that stuff. And I've done patent applications more than a dozen times, and I have patents as well. This was, let me just say it this way, this was the best patent application that I've ever seen.
Wow.
And I worked with professional lawyers who have PhDs in biology as well. It also went and found all the prior art, because this is really very time consuming. You have to search all the patent databases to see if there's something similar to what you have discovered. It understood the chemical structures. It made 23 claims. Each of the claims are very well justified, because this is a huge problem. Like, you send a patent application, and then patent reviewer will come up back, say, okay, well, claim number 7857, whatever, they're not relevant because you haven't done your prior art search and it's already been published or whatever. And it was going through. It was a 25 pages of single-lined patent application on a very, very specific molecule. I mean, it would cost over $10,000, probably much more, and taken weeks, maybe months to prepare it. So, I mean, I'm just saying these things so that people can start to appreciate what kind of an impact this will have, and these are just my examples, and I'm sure others in education. I think it's going to completely change the way we do education. Let me just give you that example, because this is really cool. I just for curiosity, I told Deep Research to come up with a sort of a lesson plan for 6th or 7th graders on American colonial history. Something very specific. And I said, you just make the plan and then give me the lesson for the first week. But make this the education of the American colonials in a very fun way, like a story, because I have to say, I didn't like going to school. It's so boring to listen to all these facts, and I really don't know how I made it. But because you don't enjoy it, you don't care about it. And I said, make sure that when the student reads this, it not only it's fun for it, but it tries to understand why is it important that I should know about American colonial days, the early pilgrims, and then come up with questions that are fun to answer. And it came up with this unbelievable story. I actually read the whole thing because it says, well, imagine you're a 12-year-old child in a Puritan village in Massachusetts around the year 1640. The morning sun is just peeking through the trees as you wake up in a small timber house. It says, well, in the afternoon, you get a couple of hours to attend a lesson at the village meeting house, which serves as both the church and the school. Like all Puritan children, you're taught to read so that you can read the Bible. Every Sunday, there's a holy day. It's the day you get break from the farm work. It's not the day you rest in the modern sense. It just keeps going on. It was like such an incredible story. And then it even came up with these questions that were sort of like, okay, how would this reflect on modern day? These things that you learned, and I mean, it was just. I just wish that I was going to sixth grade right now, and then I could study these things from the beginning.
I agree with you. I think it's remarkable as a effective education. Generally AI, but like the jump throughs that we see like this, like on Hobblings or whatever, they're called. I just like incredible. Dr. Untmas, we must move on because we've been on deep research for an hour, and we usually have like a lot of stuff to talk about. I really appreciate you coming on here, and your excitement is palpable. I now consider you friend of the pod because like it seems like we're matched on excitement on AI. So feel free to come back and talk to us as well. Also feel free to stick around because we're going to talk about some stuff that you also probably care about. The next on
I have to leave in 5 minutes, but
I really appreciate your time, and feel free to also come back, and please send me all the interesting tidbits that people were asking in the comments about like some of the stuff that you had. So if you are willing to share those chats, we'll add those as show notes so folks can actually look and then read for themselves, because again, deep research is currently only for o1 Pro users, which is $200 a month. Everybody who I sent a few examples, they're like, okay, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm gonna like upgrade and test it out for myself. And it's also available now in Europe. Yeah, Wolfram, I don't know if you saw, they decided to like release this in Europe as well. But many folks don't have access. So Dr. Untmas, thank you for joining. And then we will do we'll round up some of the favorite examples as show notes for the newsletter after this. We're moving because the next topic that we have to talk about is also kind of like relevant. Is o3-mini was released on Friday, and o3-mini, we've been waiting for o3 since I think the last of the 12 days of the Christmas ships from OpenAI, and o3-mini is like the first kind of the first attempt at that. And I don't know, folks, have you been trying o3-mini? Wolfram, I think you mentioned you did. You wanna take the first stab at like what we're looking at?
o3-mini, it's very fast. I had about 140 tokens per second, so it was one of the fastest models. It's very cheap compared to, I did a benchmark run of the previous o1 preview that cost me almost $50, and this was just $2.50, not even that. So it's definitely very fast, and it is very, very good. So it in my tests it was on second place. Only DeepSeek was ahead of it, but it went ahead of o1 preview and o1 mini definitely. So great new model, very fast,
Incredible.
and good job, OpenAI. I criticize them a lot. But
sorry, go ahead.
I criticize them a lot, but when they do something good, I have to say it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So competition math. Let's run through some emails for o3-mini and o3-mini high, which we need to talk about what high means. Competition math is 87 on o3-mini high. AI Me 2024. If you guys remember, like when they released o1, this was the highlight of like these reasoning models. They do competition math, which is like ridiculously like complex problems, and then o1 preview got 56%. o1, the full o1 gets 83. o3-mini with high, with like the reasoning tokens turned up all the way, gets 87, higher than o1. This is a mini model that runs like twice as fast and is cheap as hell. Like, I think it's I have the price here. 1 second. I think it's 25 cents. Wait, I lost my pricing. I'll find it. But it gets higher on competition math than O1. This is crazy. GPQA Diamond, Nistan, you want to talk about GPQA Diamond as our favorite kind of like test of scientific access, or LDJ? You guys both kind of know about this one. 79% on GPQA Diamond for the high reasoner. It's absolutely ridiculous for the price.
I'm seeing all of this, but I used it in Cursor, and I just didn't find it that good. I don't
For
know,
coding?
maybe. Yeah, it wasn't on par with Sonnet or R1, and yeah. So when you ask it single questions, or when you ask like really big long questions, it tends to be pretty good, and but when you are trying to keep the conversation going with it and solve a problem, I just found it kind of subpar compared to Sonnet or R1 for coding. And the other weird thing I noticed is it would often mess up the formatting. Weird when you use it on the app in ChatGPT. So yeah, I don't like it right now, but it's they're gonna improve it, and it's probably gonna be pretty.
I will say this: if you guys remember, we love simple bench questions like the Ice Cube question here. We love like some other ones. Those questions were built to trip up large language models. O3-mini scores less than O1 on those, while using significantly more tokens. I did some evaluations with using Weave, and I can show those as well. I found that like O3-mini with high thinks for significantly longer time. The amount of tokens is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, I think we're talking about like 180,000 tokens for a single question sometimes, that's because you get charged by the number of like thinking tokens in addition to output tokens, right? And so the benefit of something like a Weave, we can show you the I probably should pull it up. We can show like the total like time and tokens as well. The O3-mini on high thinks for such a longer time as well. So these charts that we're showing right now, the like on competition math, etc., they don't necessarily represent the time aspect of this. Maybe worth talking about what O3-mini high is. O1, when it was released in the API, it came with a new setting called reasoning effort. Reasoning effort is a setting where basically the test time computiness of the whole thing, where a model, the longer it thinks, the better the results are in a fairly like logarithmic way. This is like the law of test time compute, the new scaling that we have. OpenAI actually gave us control of that feature with reasoning effort as a setting. I'm talking about API as well, only, not still in the UI. And so O1 released with O1 low, medium, and high reasoning efforts. O3-mini is the first mini model. So O1 mini wasn't getting those, I believe. O3-mini is the first reasoning model, the mini model that you can also control those reasoning efforts. And you can see the difference. They actually show this in the graphs. You can see the difference. They claim that O3-mini on medium matches O1 general. Now, I found it to be the case in some cases, but not in others. But I definitely found that like O3-mini on high reasoning effort is just thinking for like an absolute incredible amount of time. The amount of test time compute that they spend for this is just like crazy. And because you pay for tokens, I think that's also important to note. I will say that in the UI, they don't have this control as a control. They just expose two models, O3-mini and O3-mini high. O3-mini, I believe, is the medium reasoning effort. I'm not sure that I have this confirmation. I don't know if you folks have, but O3-mini on high is the high reasoning effort. And I agree. I don't switch on the UI for that too much. I think that
is the one on Cursor. I think the one that Cursor uses is the medium one.
Cursor by default uses medium, and they've added O3-mini high as well, I believe, at some point. I'm not sure, but I believe that they did the change as well after people told them like, hey, we need high as well.
It's cheaper to just use it there for everybody else, by the way. You can also use the low one for free on the site.
Yes. Let's call this out. Sam Altman came out and said, hey, O3-mini is going to be free. Unlike selecting a model, now for free users, there's like a thinking button there. When you press this, then you'll get reasoning with O3-mini as well. I think overall it's a great release. They lowered the price for it and I believe in like 67% as well compared to the previous O1, because I think they're feeling the pressure from DeepSeek and like the reason they're being very, very cheap. And I've seen some comparisons of it not being like the best one, but fast is absolutely up there. The speed of this is like it gets 24% faster responses than o3-mini, and response time is like in seconds as well. Anything else we want to cover on o3-mini, or do we move on? I think we can move on.
I think I was just going to add on to what Niston said about. I agree that it's overall, like in my opinion, less robust than full O1, and like it's kind of more prone to doing like silly mistakes. But overall, I think if it's something that maybe you're throwing a lot of variables at it within your question, and like something that you kind of already know it would have to think through a lot, that's where it kind of seems to have a little bit more benefit sometimes over a full O1, but usually just around O1 level roughly.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
it feels not fully baked. So that's what I was criticizing. But once they finish it off, it's gonna be pretty nuts. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. Okay, folks, let's move on, because the next thing in the big companies and APIs is a celebratory, congratulatory thing for folks from Gemini. Gemini finally, Google shipped us Gemini 2.0 Pro, Gemini 2.0 Flash, and 2.0 Flash Lite, a new model, or a new distill, I guess, model from Gemini Flash that's significantly faster. The very few interesting tidbits about this, let's run through them. They have shared evals, and they did not compare those evals to any other model. They just compared it to themselves. I found it like raising eyebrows interesting. So just as a comparison, the new Flash Lite model beats the previous Flash. So 2 Flash Lite beats 1.5 Flash on pretty much every metric, besides maybe code, while being the same price and significantly faster. Significantly faster. And the new Flash goes to GA. GA means that finally you're able to use this in production for many use cases as well. And stuff like MMLU Pro is at 77%. Live Code Bench is around 34% for Flash. Compared to 34 at like 1.5 Pro. So we can like say with confidence that right now, Gemini 2 Flash, the main Flash model, not the Lite one, is as strong, if not stronger, than 1.5 Pro was a couple of months ago. Which I think is we pretty much are tracking this, the two-step in big model, small model becomes as big as the previous model across all of the other models as well. So this is like very in line with what we're usually seeing, but absolutely cool from Google. I think the highlight from this release though is absolutely the Flash Lite. Flash Lite is 7.5 cents for 1 million tokens of text or image or video inputs. Remember, it receives 1 million context window and it receives video inputs as well. It used to cost 7.5 cents for Gemini 1.5 Flash. So now 7.5 cents, and then outputs is 30 cents. The price on this is
but by the way,
absolutely
the Flash,
ridiculous.
The thinking one is still free on the API if you go in AI Studio, and the other ones are paid. So
yes,
and the thinking one's still the best one, and they updated it to having 1 million tokens of context, because before it was limited to 32K. Yeah, if you're doing stuff, do the thinking one. That's also what we're using on our site to make the summaries right now. Yeah, so
Flash, Gemini Flash Thinking Experimental 2501 or 2101 is a mouthful to say, but that one is absolutely still kind of like free for testing different things. I want to highlight as well for Flash Lite, the new model, the rate limits are twice as much as the regular Flash. So if this is a concern for you, rate limits for different things like real-time stuff, rate limits is like at 4,000 RPM, which is a lot for like a paid tier, and even like the free tier is 30 RPM, 30 requests per minute for the free tier for the Flash Lite, and it performs as well as very close to 1.5 Pro from previous years. Absolutely incredible release from Google to celebrate the Gemini 2.0 kind of like release finally. It's also now in the Gemini app as well. So if you're not like in the AI Studio, although I would say this, folks in Google, please don't kill me, I don't see a reason to pay for Gemini Pro app, because AI Studio is free and so good. Like they made it so good. So why do you need an app? That's the only thing that I want to say. Anything else, folks, on Gemini?
Don't you get it for free even when you buy a Pixel phone? I think I got it the
Oh, yeah.
advanced
That's true.
with a Pixel phone, so that is you can subsidize it.
I
tested. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say I tested this as well, and it was 10 tokens per second slower than the o3-mini. So just marginally slower. That is still very, very fast, about 130 tokens per second. It was not as good in the results. So yeah, o3 is still ahead. But of course, it's 10 times cheaper.
10 times, exactly 10 times cheaper, right? Like I think it's
Almost exactly, yeah.
Almost exactly 10 times cheaper, which is quite incredible. So shout out to Google for this release. I think I want to talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
The ultimate sleeper model. We're not talking because all of this political and
not on ThursdAI though, right? Like we're always like talk about Gemini like being awesome. Like I don't know if you folks saw my hoodie for this day. Like it's a Gemini hoodie. It's a sleeper model for anybody else, and I don't know why. Like Google is just absolutely crushing everybody else on price. Absolutely crushing. LDJ, last comment on Gemini, and we'll move on to Anthropic stuff.
Yeah, if you could scroll back to those benchmarks real quick. I saw it is like a bit concerning to where if you look at it is I can't spot it right now, but one of those benchmarks, it's like actually scoring worse than like Flashlight 2, it seems like.
Which model do you mean? The 2 Pro experimental?
Yeah, sorry. 2 Pro scoring worse than 2 Flashlight in preview in one of them. And there's also like in a lot of the benchmarks overall, it seems like it's not like that much of a significant leap over it. And so I think, like, I don't know, there's a lot of questions of like how much bigger is it, and like people are going to make comparisons of how much more expensive it is. But I think maybe it'll be really good at, like, if you look at simple QA score, like that's where the biggest leap seems to be, where that's like a hallucination test kind of, like seeing how well it can actually learn like and understand general knowledge. So I think that's where it might really have a strength.
So just for context for folks who are listening, 1.5 Pro was 24% on Simple QA, and it's Simple QA is like world knowledge with no search enabled, and like Gemini 2.0 Pro is now at 44%, so almost like twice as much on the world knowledge as well. So like this model is like significantly better at understanding the world. All right, folks.
Still 4 points lower than DeepSeek R1. Just saying. And just quick speculation. I think the Pro model is a bigger model with an older architecture, and the newer one is just they've done something different. That one just hits different. How can I say? Yeah. Anyway, just use the thinking one. Don't use any other one. Just use Flash thinking for everything. It's so fast. It even goes to like 190, sometimes 300 tokens per second.
Yeah, it goes incredibly fast. One thing that I wanted to highlight is, do you guys know how annoying? I'll go back to deep research for a second. Do you guys know how annoying this is when a company releases like benchmarks and it's a table like this, and it's a table that's only their benchmarks, etc. Comparing one to one is like incredibly taxing. I gave Deep Research the task of comparing these evals to somebody else's evals, and it did swimmingly. I just want to show you like what we're talking about. It's just like I basically just said, hey, here's all my go research the Gemini 2.0 like evals, and then compare them in the table to evals from like from DeepSeek R1, for example. I hate this task myself. Like copy and pasting, like doing this thing. Deep Research did like an amazing job and gave me like a link, and you can see this table for folks who are watching this as well. You can see a link directly to like where they took off this. I didn't test, so I'm hoping this like it's not hallucinated, but you get a site. So for a live code bench, for example, 57 for DeepSeek R1, and then 36.
This looks accurate, by the way. This looks accurate just from eyeballing it.
For eyeballing, yeah. It does like a really good job at like doing cross-check for multiple things and being very, very smart at this. So yeah, we now have an example of comparison between Gemini 2.0 and DeepSeek R1 and Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which Google did not give us, but now we have it. Let's move on, folks. I want to move on to the next topic on our docket. Again, big companies APIs. We are here for a long time today because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Anthropic released something called constitutional classifiers, which is a universal jailbreak prevention. When they also released a way to kind of like play with this. Basically, a very, very interesting research from Anthropic, including kind of like research paper on this topic. Some folks criticized them that they didn't really give us the prompts themselves. But basically what they did is they've trained classifiers, which means smaller models that run on inputs and outputs. And they basically try to classify them whether or not they're like a jailbreak attempts as well by sourcing a bunch of jailbreaks from the community, and they kept sourcing it by releasing this kind of like Claude UI, where basically there's like 8 questions, I guess. Yeah, 8 questions, and you need to extract the information from Claude, and they have those like classifiers running there. Very interesting that the community kind of refused to participate in this experiment, saying, hey, you're basically taking our money for free. And so if you guys know Pliny the Liberator, Pliny the Jailbreaker, they actually cite him in this research for his God mode universal jailbreak. They used jailbreaks from Haze Labs. If you guys remember, we talked with Leonard from Haze Labs on the pod as well about their bijection attack, which is a universal jailbreak that is basically the smarter the model is, the easier it is to jailbreak with bijection. So they collaborated with those, they cited them as well. They did a bunch of research into jailbreaking, and basically the outcome is nobody was able to break more than 3 of the 8 questions that they had on the site. Though the other side of this is that why would they? Why would folks just spend their like best jailbreaks on Anthropic without getting something back? And so Anthropic came back and said, okay, we'll pay you. We'll pay you like $25,000 if you break all 8 questions. And people still like, we don't care about the money. Release this in open source. So very interesting. But the constitutional classifiers idea is very interesting. Those are guardrails on inputs and outputs that try to specifically understand whether this is an attempt at jailbreak. Either it's an attempt to have the model respond with like lead speak or something, different things like this. They use like a bunch of synthetic prompts for this, and this prototype version withstood over 3,000 hours of human red teaming. So they hired a bunch of red teamers to try to like break those models, and this prototype basically stood as well. One highlight there is that usually the problem with those kind of things is refusal. Refusal means that like the model will just refuse actual prompts and not jailbreak prompts, and so they were able to reduce this from like 86% refusal. With only like 3% increase in refusal generally, they were able to jump to 86% jailbreak success rate. From 4% to 86% jailbreak success rate. Very, very interesting research from Anthropic. Very interesting response from the community as well, where Pliny says basically, hey, I don't care about money. I'm allergic to it.
Wait. That's a 0.38% increase in over-refusals. What is the percentage of over-refusals?
I actually didn't see. I think they have it in the blog, so that's a good question. Yeah, the increase was very, very mild. So basically, they were able to achieve.
But it's pretty high to begin with. That's some manipulative speaking there.
Wait, you mean like this stat?
It refuses a lot to begin with. So now they're just saying, oh well, this will refuse a lot of questions. And we've only made it refuse a tiny bit more, like 0.38% more. So they make it seem like it doesn't refuse, but it refuses a lot.
It refuses a lot. And then, but the jump from like this new model like refuses not that much. I think this is the highlight. But yeah, I agree with you. Refusing is still a problem for jailbreak prevention.
It's also a problem I've heard from people that are like psychologists that use this in their clinics. And other people, so they have people that have gone through abuse or something, and they're just trying to get the logs and summarize it for their job, and they can't rely on this type of model to do that. So anyway, I'm not gonna even bother to help
to play
censorship regime of the Emperor Dario Amodei. Anyway, that's my opinion on it.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
I have a strong opinion on that as well. But in general, I think the guardrails are a good thing, because when we run the model and not just use it, we run it for others, we have to protect it and make sure that it is not being injected and stuff like that. So the idea is good. And I see an issue here because remember when we were discussing if Claude has gotten worse or gotten dumber, and we found out that there are injections where their classifier detects you are asking something it shouldn't answer, and they inject in your own prompt that it shouldn't answer that. So that was one way they dealt with that before. And we have model versions, and we know if they don't cheat, that the version is what we get. But if you have classifiers on top of that, and those get updated and changed and so on, you get different outputs. Then how are those versioned? That has to be, how to get reproducible results that way. That is also an open question.
We
but
had
in
the
general,
same with OpenAI as well, right? They updated classifiers, and suddenly the model was like different, and they started refusing different things. I agree.
That's still an open issue.
Another open point for open source where you can host the model, or you can like directly know that like there's no classifiers in there.
Or you put your own on it, then you can control it, like the Llama Guard stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just really quickly, if you're running this as a business, or if you're just running any open source model, you don't really need something that complicated, because basically all they do is you just need an extra API call, and then just ask the API call, hey, is this a question about I don't know, civil engineering, or is this a question about medical procedure? And that's how you prevent jailbreaks. And you just ask, is this a jailbreak? You just
you mean like if this is like out of the distribution of like what you're talking about?
Yeah. So because most of their customers, paying customers, are enterprise customers, and they use it for customer support. That's how Anthropic makes money. So this is what it's geared towards. But you don't necessarily need something this complicated to do the same job. People have deployed medical models that prevent jailbreaks just fine in public. So I'm just saying, it's not that complicated to prevent jailbreaks. Just add an extra API call and just ask the model, is this a jailbreak? And it's common sense. But yeah, anyway, they're just getting, because their market is now more enterprise and government, so they are marketing this as, look at how complicated and better our
I will say, listen, we did some research on this because we're building guardrails as well with Weave and Weights and Biases. Shout out to Weights and Biases for sponsoring this podcast, yay! And we did some research into jailbreak prevention guardrails, and we saw that asking a model about jailbreaks is not necessarily easy, because the jailbreaks are meant to break models as well. So if you have a jailbreak that tries to jailbreak your GPT-4o based LLM app, and you're using GPT-4o again for classifier as well, that's not like, they're not trained on identifying those. And I think that the classifier thing is specifically, they've trained smaller models. Those are not probably like Claude level models. Those are like probably BERT or something, I don't know, like significantly faster classifier models. They probably tend to work better. That's also what we found. We just didn't do it the constitutional way, but we found similar kind of results as well. All right, moving on from this Anthropic, shout out for this work, and then also shout out Pliny and everything and everybody else who are like cited in this universal jailbreak. Moving on to Cloudflare super quick. Wolfram, you mentioned something in the comments that was you wanna connect the dots here for the audience?
I heard a great story about how deep research can be used, for example, cancer treatment and stuff like that, where it's saving lives. And that is a great use case for AI outside of the usual productivity stuff. But if the research agent has to crawl the web, and it's prevented by Cloudflare or others, then it will not be possible anymore. And I think those journals who are already limiting access will even limit it even more that way. So of course, there's a compensation issue that has to be solved, but just blocking everything has a lot of negative consequences as well.
So maybe let's give context for folks who are listening. Cloudflare announced this a while ago. They called it AI Audit. And for websites who are protected with Cloudflare, which is a web application firework and the CDN and then like a bunch of other stuff, there is a way for you as a company to just turn on AI Audit, and this will look at your traffic and try to identify which of it is actual like human traffic, which is Google search robots as well, or which is AI companies, and they claim that AI companies like OpenAI and Anthropic as well, they scrape at the 100x or 1000x level of Google as well. And basically they talk about, this is your content, blah blah blah, but then OpenAI basically makes a lot of money on this, and they do. And basically Cloudflare has this feature, and I think the highlight to me on why this is newsworthy is that they chatted with this magazine, and they talked about this feature is going to be turned on and become opt-out versus opt-in. So right now, if you're on Cloudflare, you can opt into this feature and you can say, hey, protect my website from AI crawlers, from OpenAI, etc. And in the first half of 2025, this feature will become an opt-out. So it will get turned on by default. Basically means that all of the AI crawlers to the sites that Cloudflare protects will become blocked by default, like malicious traffic, which is crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy. Crazy for multiple reasons. One of them is these companies still scrape the web to build their websites, and like we still know that up-to-date data is important, the cutoff time is important. But also the second part is, what about agents? Wolfram, like you said, what about agents? If agents are getting blocked by Cloudflare traffic, I don't want my agents to be blocked. Like, I consider my agent an extension of Alex.
Yes.
I don't consider it like for the benefit of OpenAI. This is like my thing that does work for me. Cloudflare, don't block my agent. Like, what the hell? So very interesting how they be able to do this. They do have some agent prevention stuff. So I just wanted to shout this out. This is coming very soon. Interestingly, how this will affect the web. The backside of this, right? The other side of this is that the web becomes increasingly closed because of those AI companies scraping everything. The web becomes increasingly closed. Like the most famous thing is that Twitter API was open publicly, and open Twitter you can access and search all tweets like in the UI. And then Elon Musk basically said, "Hey, OpenAI is scraping all of Twitter. Let me close it down." So now without login, you cannot look at Twitter, but just by search results. Reddit has closed itself. So if you use Reddit an operator for OpenAI, that Reddit tells you, "Hey, log in." You have to log in. You can't see Reddit. You can't see Reddit. Reddit was like the open internet, and now like Reddit is getting closed, right? So I can see the problem they're addressing as well. So I'm kind of both minds here. I don't want the internet to get increasingly closed. If this is the solution, let's try it out. But also, I want my agent to perform as myself, as like an extension of Alex, a person, not OpenAI's crawler. So I guess I wonder like where this will land. But people should get ready for some changes in this area.
I think the Indonesian ladies with 50 screens in front of them that are picking stuff are going to get a lot of business out of this.
Yeah, I agree. Although Cloudflare can probably block those as well. I don't know.
No, they do have a point, because anytime you open a website, it just gets rammed with random traffic from many different countries.
Yep.
So they do have somewhat of a point there. And I think if your agentic setup that you've done is good, you'll be able to get around it, because now it can move the mouse, it can see the screen. It's just going to be more expensive. It's no longer going to be you just grab the site, boom, boom. Now you actually like have to fire up a VM, fire up a browser, fire up a VLM or an API, and have it actually click. So it just makes it more expensive. It doesn't necessarily stop it. Again, I just hope they have something for like archive.org and the very important organizations to not mess them up.
Yeah, I agree. All right, folks, I think we're now clocking at 1 hour and 30 minutes. We talked about deep research with Dr. Undmaz for the first hour or so. So definitely, if you missed any part of this conversation, definitely follow up. I wanted to say that again, thanks as always to Weights and Biases, who sponsored the podcast. Not necessarily because I just worked there. It's not a direct sponsor, but because without Weights and Biases, this wouldn't have been possible. And so if you're following with us, pinned to the top of the space is a live stream from WNB Weave. Give that a follow. Now I'm going to jump into a quick corner that I call This Week's Buzz and let my co-host here give a little bit of a break. Not a crazy time break because I don't have that much content there. But basically, This Week's Buzz is where I talk about weights and biases stuff. So... welcome to this week's Buzzer category on ThursdAI, where I talk about weights and biases related stuff. And as always, I try to not make it marketerial and tell you actually about, stuff that relates to the things that we talk about. And so the one thing that I want to show is that I did analysis for o3-mini using Weave, the observability evaluation framework that we have. And I just want to show some of this analysis. We've talked about this. I just want to contextualize this to folks. So I did analysis on o3-mini. Actually had some access to o3-mini a little bit before they released it, which is rare for me, which is the first time Weights and Biases got some access, probably because the CTO of Weights and Biases broke through the SweetBench verified benchmark, and we wanted to try this with o3-mini as well. So stay tuned for those results. But basically, here's an evaluation comparison that I can show you. For folks who are listening right now, I'm basically showing the Weights and Biases Weave interface where I ran a bunch of evaluations, and then there's one screen that you can compare them on a bunch of metrics as well. And so the thing that I wanted to highlight here is latency, but also the absolute token count. Okay, so right now the o3-mini low, medium, and high are the three reasoning effort labels that three reasoning effort controls that you can pass to o3-mini and say, hey, think for longer. I just wanted to show you the visible in Weave just how much longer this is. So time-wise, but also token-wise, right? So you can see the time-wise model latency on o3-mini low. Those are 20 questions from simple bench reasoning. o3-mini low average latency is 6 seconds. Average latency for o3-mini high is 92 seconds. From 6 seconds to 92 seconds. Interestingly, it doesn't answer more questions for o3-mini. This is the most interesting part as well. It answers on medium and high, it answers about 38% of the questions. So thinking for almost 6 times longer doesn't, in this case, solve those questions. Those are tricky questions, though. The highlight of me that I found it very interesting, and this is the power of Weave, is that the total tokens was insane in difference. So I'm looking at the graph here, folks who are listening, and we're looking at total tokens for answering 20 questions for, I believe, three trials. Yeah, I ran 3 trials. Basically means that Weave allows you to average between 3 trials. Those models are not deterministic with temperature. So if you ran just 1 trial, you may just, you may just get the wrong answer and your eval is not going to be great. So we actually offer you to do three times for the same question. And so for 20 questions for 3 trials, so that's basically 60 times each model answers, o3-mini on low outputted in total 75,000 tokens for 20 questions for 6 times. o3-mini on high outputted 470,000 tokens, 500,000 tokens output of thinking and output for 20 questions for 3 times. So 60 questions. 60 questions, 470,000 tokens. Just imagine the amount of back and forth in the thinking process that it had. Obviously, unlike R1, for example, which we can add here and just take a look. Also, unlike R1, which scored significantly higher than all those models, we don't actually get the thinking tokens themselves, so we cannot see what the model was thinking about, but we can know that it's gonna cost you more if even if it's cheaper, the amount of tokens that outputs on high is significantly higher, right? So I just wanted to highlight this. Unfortunately, when they launched, I didn't have the pricing information yet, so I can't actually show you how much we can multiply this, but we don't have the pricing information. Usually for models, we actually also include the pricing, general pricing for every evals, as I can show you, for example, on the O1 evals that I ran, O1 high, medium, and low. O1 high took me around 15 minutes generally, and it cost me $6. So I'd expect that o3-mini is going to cost around 10x less. But again, because we pay per tokens, this can actually not make that much financial sense. So just an example of Weave. Yeah, go ahead.
So I want to use this.
By this you mean Weave from Weights and Biases, the observability LLM framework that we have?
Yeah. So I am. Yeah. The problem is that people post benchmarks of their models, and me and LJ have pushed out models before. So now I want to know, because often I have to go and rerun LM eval harness for models that other people posted and other people are claiming, and people usually just put a board up and they just put a number in there. I don't know what they've actually ran.
Yeah.
Now, can I, for example, run LM eval harness on my own and just post the results of LM eval harness directly on 1B so that I can show people that here I ran LM eval, I ran it on this API or this model, and this is what I got.
Yes.
So can this do that?
Yes, you will have to run using our runner. So you would have to, but then call LM harness. So it's absolutely possible. Not only it's possible, we have a feature called leaderboard here, which is exactly what you want. This leaderboard then turns
you need
into
to make an API to like let's say I want to use this right now. I have to make an API of whatever open source, closed source model, whatever it is, and then I hook the API up to 1B, and then I can run it. Then, if it's my own API, that's not gonna cost me anything, right? Other than
yes, we're just like a framework. Not only this, we'll show you a versioning of every model. You said like you don't know what people run for this O3 reasoning. Like I changed it 12 times, so you get a version of every time you iterate on the prompt or on the code itself. So absolutely, you should use this. And thank you for taking interest in Weights and Biases Weave. This is the
also
end of
the leaderboard, because again, a lot of us in the open source community are pretty competitive. Can we get stuff up in there in the leaderboard?
100%. Leaderboard
Okay,
is almost automatically generated, but you can also have your own leaderboard and have it public as well. So you can build a leaderboard like benchmarks, and you can keep updating this. It will update automatically. You can share a private link or a public link, and you can sort by different metrics in the leaderboard. Yep.
All right, cool. I was just saying because sometimes it takes like 2 weeks for a model to even get benchmarked on OpenLLM leaderboard, and we don't have another leaderboard, and I kind of just need something done fast. All right. This looks like it solves the problem.
Hell yeah!
Again, you hadn't talked to me before about this. I'm just seeing this now, and I'm just thinking, yeah, I do need to use it. Okay. All right.
I love this, that like the folks who I show this to are getting more and more convinced. This is exactly the point. All right, folks, just to finish out the this week's Buzz content segment, we'll move on to open source, and then I show you something crazy in OmniHuman. I have 3 workshops, and if you're interested in any part of what we just talked about or just building evaluations, AI.engineer Summit, which is a premier conference by our friends Suix and Ben, and I've been to each one of them since they released, is coming to New York in was that February 19th, 2021 and 22. I think the actual the conference day is 21, I believe. Saturday 22, there are workshops, and I got accepted as the workshop to run and tell you about evals. So if you're at AI Engineer, if you're coming to AI Engineer, and I know many ThursdAI listeners come to AI Engineer, I have a workshop on the 22nd. We have a booth in the booth area as well, so we're sponsoring this conference. Please come talk to us, and please attend my workshop, and make it so that they have to give me the bigger room out of the rooms, because everybody wants to come learn about evals. If you're not at AI Engineer, but you're somehow in Toronto the same weekend as well, we have 2 workshops together with AI Thinkers. We just published them. They will run out fast. Nistan, you've been to the previous AI Thinkers in Toronto. You've been to both of them. 200 places, 700 registers, and waitlist like Abdul Wazoo. So it's really hard to get into Toronto AI Thinkers. Really hot AI community over there. And so we will be doing workshops for those communities. So if you're in Toronto, Sunday the 23rd, if you can't do it on Monday, and Monday the 24th, feel free to sign up. The workshop is free for you. And we're going to talk about evals as well. And I would be very, very happy to meet the Toronto Thinkers community. So, and Nistan hopefully will be there as well, and giving high fives and hanging out. So we'll probably do some ThursdAI high fives as well. So this is the end of this week's buzz, and we have to move on because we have not that much time. We haven't covered open source. So let's move on to open source. Open source AI, let's get it started. Let's get it started, folks. We are in the open source area of ThursdAI. Usually we talk about an open source for an hour or so. There's not a huge amount of news in open source this week, Wolfram. I believe I'm correct in saying this. I want to highlight maybe 1 or 2 and then talk about OmniHuman, because I think that this is like the craziest thing outside of deep research that I've seen. What stands out to you in this week? I'll show you what stands out to me in this week on open source, and then we can maybe cover another 1 or 2. This week, the highlight to me was how many people think that they can replicate deep research. And so we had 2 I think at least 5. But at least 2 attempts that I wanted to highlight from Gina, our friends at Gina AI. They released something called Node Deep Research, and this is basically an attempt to replicate deep research as a concept, which is basically people think it's just running searches in the loop and doing some reasoning things. I believe that they're wrong. So I believe that while they say, hey, deep research is like this thing, and here's the basic formula. You have a query, you have search, you read this, you reason about the search, and then you search again until the budget is exceeded. This is what they claim the formula for deep research is, and then you basically generate the answer. I found it to be not exactly the case, although I didn't try this one specifically, because, well, the model that powers deep research in OpenAI is O3. The model that powers like these clones is basically whatever model you can get to, so R1, for example, etc. I believe that the O3 model in deep research is a fine-tuned model specifically for this. I may be wrong, but I believe that they're not just releasing like a product without fine-tuning models. OpenAI is really good at fine-tuning models for specific use cases. Like you remember for code interpreter, for example, the model was fine-tuned first, and then they kind of like shoved this fine-tuning into the main models. So very interesting, the amount of like deep research clones that you can get. I haven't seen this exact like quality of a product by far. The other one is Hugging Face decided to release Open Deep Research, or decided to announce at least, and they say that, you know, we need better research agents as well. One of the guys who works on this is Clementine Fourier, and I believe that Clementine is the author or one of the authors behind Gaia, which is the general AI assistant benchmark, which measures like deep research type things. They also threw shade on OpenAI, saying that like the Gaia score that they gave in deep research is not exactly correct because other models didn't get access to tools as much, but hey, this is what Hugging Face basically decides to try and replicate, and we need more in the open source. Absolutely. I don't know where they ended though, so I don't actually like. We just have an announcement for Open Deep Research, which I'm struggling to open right now. Have you guys looked at this effort? Is there any other comments that we want to talk about?
The Gina one is pretty dope. And by the way, if you change the github.com link to .gg, it's only 25,000 tokens. You can just copy paste in whatever you're doing and have it explained. So I'm just reading it. I'm just reading it now. This is nice. The Gina, I think, is doing it quite properly. I haven't looked at the. Actually, yeah, I've looked at the.
You mean on GitHub.com? If you change the URL to GitHub instead of com, you put like GG in here. If you do this, then suddenly you get to this amazing website that gives you the whole repo as a textual file, and you can talk to it. This is what you mean, Nistan, from GitHub?
Yeah. It's only 20,000 tokens, so you can just copy that in any model and then just have it. I don't know, have your agent or whatever. That's one. But yeah, you can just copy the text. It's not that much code to implement it. This is what I'm saying. So if you're going to implement this on your own, it's only 20,000 tokens of code. So just dump that in Cursor or wherever you want.
So this is very interesting for purposes of like just analyzing research. But let's go back to open source stuff. So many other folks try to replicate deep research. I think that it's very important because then again, if I run this on my computer, Cloudflare will not block me. So if we get to anywhere close to something like this, but it runs on like my machine, then likely the solution of gated internet is here. So, and once O3 is getting released in the API, this could actually achieve that level. So a very interesting comparison and very interesting insights. I want to talk about 2 other things that happened in open source. Not only did folks immediately start replicating deep research, folks also tried to replicate R1. Multiple folks try to replicate R1's success because, again, when OpenAI released O1, the reasoning models, nobody knew how they trained. They only talked about RL. R1 gave people basically the roadmap to train, reasoning models. And so there's 2 that I want to highlight. Simple Scaling, a friend of ours, that was Nicholas, who was on the pod actually from LNAI. They trained Simple Scaling S1 is a reasoning model fine-tuned from Qwen 2.532b instruct on just 1,000 examples of reasoning problems, high-quality dataset of 1,000 examples, which they released. They called it S1K. I believe that they released it. maybe we'll follow up. And then basically they develop a simple test time scaling technique called budget forcing, which allows the model to improve its performance by controlling the amount of test time compute it has itself. I don't know. We should talk about this, folks. Like the model.
That's a good paper. We should do a reading on that after. I also want to know what LDJ, our in-house data janitor, thinks of this, because he probably.
LDJ, have you looked at the simple scaling S1 kind of results? Were they getting like very quick, very high results as well? If LDJ is with us, I cannot see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to thoroughly look at the paper. I had a glance at it, and it's the paper where they tell it to like say like wait like recurringly throughout the data, right?
This is the budget forcing thing that they basically say like, hey, wait and do more things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I suspect that it might not like scale that well, like as you go to maybe like higher parameter counts and you want to like push it further to longer training. But it does seem like something that could at least potentially be used to help bootstrap like a phase of training that can end up scaling further with other methods. But yeah, it seems like useful and valuable information either way.
The highlight of this is because Nicholas Meninghoff is involved and like OmniHuman folks, they released everything. They released the paper, the model, the data as well. So you can like actually look at those data sets at S1K and simple scaling. And those like, you can see the question, the type and the source and the like thinking trajectories you can see, which is like super cool. And I think that like we should celebrate attempts like this. They also have the training code here and the inference code here and everything. So absolutely incredible work for those folks. Yeah, shout out to Nicholas and other folks who are like trying to replicate. The highlight to me as well is that they replicated this graph. This graph that I'm showing for folks who are just listening is the graph that's very similar to the test time compute scaling graph that O1 released when they talked about O1. That basically shows that the more thinking tokens you get, the higher accuracy you go to as well. I have a similar graph that like prove this in Weave, but basically they show like a logarithmic trajectory going up on competition math, where average thinking time is higher, and they achieve this by adding like by keep adding like the weight stuff as well. Very interesting paper, absolutely worth reading this, and it's almost at like 2,000 stars. Let me add another star on GitHub, so like it's blowing up right now. So shout out to folks. Maybe we'll get Nicholas to the chat and talk about this. The other one that I wanted to highlight is there's an additional attempt at replicating the aha moment. If you guys remember the aha moment that we talked in R1, where researchers, the model itself understood that it doesn't know the responses enough, so the model switched to reasoning and kind of went back on its word. So they replicated, these folks, Ling Chan, replicated the aha moment with a 2 billion parameter model that surpasses a 72 billion parameter model with only 100 training steps, costing less than $3. And they're planning to open source this as well. Absolutely crazy to me that, by the way, the basis for all these trainings is Quen. So shout out to Jun Yang, our friend, and like the Quen team. The basis for all of these reasoners, fine tuners, etc., is Quen for S1, for everyone as well, for this as well. So this one with just 100 steps of GRPO, which is the new kind of preference technique that R1 released in their paper. They move Quen 2VL on top of a 2 billion parameter, on top of Quen 2VL and 72 billion parameter at a reasoning, at counting problem. So absolutely insane to me that like with $3 you can get to a point where you're making a 2 billion parameter model outperform a 72 billion parameter model on a few tasks. Just absolute shout out to those folks as well. We'll add those to the show notes. If you're interested in this GPRO approach and other things, definitely give this a read and a try. That's it for open source this week. I believe there's also Ace Coder, but we're not gonna go into this super quickly. There is a slew of new models from Krutim, like a family of new models from Krutim, which is like India's main kind of LLM startup, etc. They have some interesting benchmarks, nothing like too crazy. However, it received some pushback from the community, where on the right you have an MIT licensed Indic Trends model with evals, and on the left here you have Krutim from Ola as well, and you can see they basically have the same files. And folks are talking about, hey, Indic Trends, which Krutim says that they're beating on different benchmarks, is MIT licensed, and it's kind of a bummer for a big company to just like copy and do some stuff. So there's like a bunch of feedback for Krutim. Not only this, the evals on those like leading benchmarks are not that great as well. I just wanted to highlight that like they do claim some interesting benchmarks on translation as well. And they claim that their R1 hosting is the cheapest in the world as well. So if you want to send your tokens to India, not China, Krutim is the place where you would go. I think it's time for folks. If you're still with us in the space, I would recommend you go now and watch the YouTube or the X video feed, because right now, Wolfram, I know you know what I'm going to talk about. We're going to show the most insane thing that I've seen. I was speechless for like almost all of it. I will try to share the screen here properly so you can actually hear the sounds. This is just, to me, just absolutely like mind blowing. Let me open this up so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Okay, this is our GitHub GG analysis. Let's see if we can get there. So yes, if you go to OmniHuman, where is the actual link? Hold on 1 second. Let me stop. Okay, OmniHuman-1 from ByteDance was released, and they call the research is rethinking the scaling up on one-stage conditioned human animation models. There's a lot of words here, but basically, ByteDance, which is a company that we've seen do some incredible stuff lately, releasing something like latent sync for lip syncing. ByteDance obviously probably trains on like all of TikTok. They released this human animation model that completely blew me away. They also released like how they're doing this with like multi-stages, blah blah blah. I don't really care. I will just show you some examples, and then we're going to talk about what exactly blew me away. This is why folks that are just listening, you probably should watch if you haven't seen this as well. They have a model that takes one image or an image that conditioned with video, but mostly one image, and then does lip sync on it. So here's an example. Let's take a look.
哦嘿，你们是怎么发现我的？虽然我知道这样说有点不合适，但是为了你们的健康着想。
So for folks who are just listening probably to some Mandarin,
记得多吃蔬菜。
this is an image of, I don't know, lettuce.
This looks
with,
wild, dude.
With some eyes and whatever. We've talked about animating models before, Wolfram. We talked about Halo 3. We talked about Emo. We talked about multiple ones that doesn't get released. This to me is like, I don't know, a step category jump on top of like all of them. The eyes are moving, the mouse is moving. There's a video that they took down, by the way, of Taylor Swift singing Naruto's Akodai or whatever it's called. There's a video of Albert Einstein talking. So let's take a look at this one.
What would art be like without emotions? It would be empty. What would our lives be like without emotions? They would be empty of values. So a famous classical poet said, "We hate and we love. Can one tell me why?"
So
this is crazy.
It's insane.
Dude, you can make Einstein lectures. It looks like 1080p. Yo,
this is crazy. I want to highlight a few things. So besides Nistin going off the bed and like his brain is breaking like mine was, I want to show that like the initial image for this. And this is why I want folks to actually look. And if you're just listening, the link to the video that I break down will be in the show notes, right? So like just listen to it with us. Einstein's image has a black or whiteboard, chalkboard, I guess back then, behind him, and there's like a circle drawn on this board, and his body is like overtaking like half of the circle. You can't see it on the whiteboard, right? So like his body. Previous models in this area, they just did the lip sync and maybe the eyes and maybe the vocal cords. And I remember, like we talked about, like the earrings moving. I got excited. This fucking model, if Einstein moves a little bit, you can see that it completes the circle behind him. It just invents like I'm just like trying to convey what I'm like seeing for folks who are listening. This model
can we run
moves,
this? Can we run, where is I need this right?
Yeah, we cannot run this, and it's not possible. So this is a research for ByteDance. I'm really upset that this is not like even close. I just want to tell people what's happening here. There's one image that you provide this model with Einstein standing in front of a chalkboard with something written on a chalkboard. His face and body like just occludes half of the chalkboard. You can't see it, and then the model generates Einstein moving while moving his hands. The hands are a little funky, but fine, because I think they weren't in the original frame. They're just like invented hands as well, which is like crazy. His movements, every piece of shadow is perfect, but while he moves away, the model just auto-completes the second part of the image on the whiteboard, on the chalkboard that you cannot see. Mind-blowing level of autocomplete. There's another one where this pianist plays piano. So just an image here for folks. There's a person sitting in front of a piano, plays piano. There's a light coming out of the window, soft like light, like sunlight on her on her hair and everything. The hair and all the movements are perfect. This image is from the side, so you can see her side. So it's not like the standard like person talking to you as a front frame. Like also looks like it's almost perfect, like the way she sings. You can see the vocal cords are moving, etc. But she plays the piano, and this model also like it doesn't do the right chords. Obviously, let's not get all excited, right? Like let's not go all the way. But this model generates her fingers in a realistic way, playing the piano. And how can we like not talk about this breaks the simulation of the multiverse? Wolfram, tell me what you think about this.
Yeah, there's a third one that you can show. That is when you scroll a bit down to the more portrait cases, the black lady on the left, just a little more. Okay, here, the one with the hat on.
This one.
Woman. Yeah. Look at the background where you see cars driving, people walking. That is what impressed me a lot as well. And the hands were great in most of those. So it's how could anyone think this is AI generated? This
is insane. So for folks who are listening,
impossible to tell.
There's a lady with a hat, probably somewhere in whatever, talking to the microphone. You can see a little bit of a window reflections behind her. The model animated those window reflections. There's people moving. They actually looks like people. There's cars moving behind her in different directions, right? The cars are moving in different directions. Some of them are moving back, some front. But still, this seems ridiculously realistic. There's another example here with the person talking through a mask, like a COVID mask. That also blew me away.
Yeah, me too.
Just this makes no sense that models can get to this level of I don't know. I'm still broken away. And one last thing that I want to show here before we conclude this insanity of OpenAI, of AI being able to replicate the world. They also have a video driving as well. So most of this is one image based. So all of these are images. I'll show this one as well.
Oh, nothing. Just stretching.
They have an like animation happening here.
The #1 cause of poor
this
hamstring.
looks like animated. I
didn't know that.
This looks animated absolutely, but the thing that they have here is they can also drive with video. So there's a 4x4 grid. On the top left there's a real one. On the top right there's an image and audio only, so one image and then audio. On the bottom right there's image, audio, and the body and hands also are animated. And then they take like video driving to get this done. I'll just play all of this without even the voice, and it's impossible to know which one is the real one if they didn't mark this.
But how do we produce food without destroying nature? How do we deliver to 10 billion people affordable, nutritious, and sustainable
So this person basically
food?
stands on like a stage holding a slide controller in his right hand, and one image with video still is doing very impressive. With the video driving this, basically it feels more realistic than the actual one. I was like mind blown.
But how
Absolutely.
do we produce
Look at
food
this.
without destroying nature? How do we deliver?
The model generates creases on the chin when the person looks down and like they have a little bit of a chin. The model generates close. The model generates perfect lighting. They took down my favorite example of this comedian, which I don't have here unfortunately. They took it down. I have it open. I can show it to you, but I have it open. The comedian had like Nikki Glaser. She had a shiny dress on with like reflective pieces on the dress. When she turned around, the light source on the dress was like precise. So basically, we're talking about a video generation model that like is disguised with a human like motion model. And I don't know. This to me was just like so mind breaking. And I've been following this that I don't even know what more to say. Wolfram, I don't know if you want to finish up here, but like I'm speechless, absolutely speechless about this model.
It's getting better all the time, and soon we will be able to run stuff like that locally because the Halo we mentioned, that is already a good step, but far from this, of course. But we will be there in a year or so, and we have that quality locally as well. And it's impossible to differentiate between real and not just by looking at it.
Absolutely impossible. I think this is a good note to finish the show today on, folks, because we are here to highlight kind of the advances from week to week. This week, let's just like do a quick summary of the things that we got this week. And we had, just to highlight, we had like more than 2,000 people just like join us as well. This week, only this week, after like the insane breakthrough through R1, etc., previous weeks, we've got o3-mini as a model, the fastest and like quickest reasoner from OpenAI. Then OpenAI released Deep Research, which we talked for an hour with Dr. Unutmaz, who is an actual researcher, unlike us. Well, we do some research, but like an actual like scientist research, that his mind is completely like broken about this. He talked about like it generating patent applications that look better than human ones. It generates open review for scientific review models. This is, to me, a ChatGPT moment in AI. The Deep Research plus O3 just absolutely is remarkable models. And I was very happy to have somebody that does actual research for a living and did it for his career to tell us about like this. Then we also have
He's not the only one. I've seen other researchers, scientists, real and professors talk about it very fondly.
Yep. And so it actually does the research as well. And then we also talked about some Anthropic stuff. Gemini 2.0 was also released this week, finally. So the models are fairly the same, except the new model of Gemini 2.0 Flash Lite. But the 1206 experimental model is now like in production, Gemini 2.0 as advanced. Very, very good models. I think they're top of the LMC's arena as well. And then also we talked about some open source replications of Deep Research, open source replications with very limited amount of compute for something like an R1. So that's great because as we talked about when R1 was released, the open sourcing of R1 gives the open source community the ability to do these things. And we actually start to see those things now. Smaller models are beating significantly larger models with just simple methods of continuing adding weight and get more compute. And then we did a comparison in Weave for those models as well. We got Nistan excited, so maybe he'll start using the leaderboards. You guys will see. And then we concluded on this mind-bending new release from ByteDance. It's not a release, it's a technical announcement. I actually emailed them asking whether or not we'll see this ever. They said they don't have any plans of releasing anything like this. As we've seen from other labs, they get probably because the data they trained used our TikToks collectively, but we will get this level in open source, if not in 6 months, then in a year, and if not a year and a half. Those videos are indistinguishable from reality, enough so that I'm like, did we break some simulation wall in there? Because generating the background people walking in the reflection of the window of the shop that this person is talking about is just insane, and there's no reason for the model to do this besides just being a world model. So very incredible OpenAI. Very incredible release week from OpenAI, from Anthropic, from everyone. We keep asking, where's Grok 3? It keeps not coming. But
just really quickly, Mistral added a bunch of agentic stuff. The UI looks super cool. We're gonna check it out. Yeah.
I saw that Mistral released LeChat as an iOS app that we didn't mention, but they also added agentic stuff. I didn't see.
Yeah, it splits the screen in half, and on the left screen opens up a browser and stuff. It's actually pretty extensive.
Pretty cool.
it's worth
We're gonna play
checking
with
out,
this.
yeah.
So thanks, Nissan, for letting us know. And then yeah, just an absolutely mind-blowing again a week of releases here. Thank you all for joining ThursdAI. Wolfram, thank you. Nistan, LDJ, thank you, Dr. Dario Umutmaz, for joining and giving us your expertise and excitement about DeepSeek, deep research. Sorry, it's confusing with the deeps. We, as always, are going to post everything that we've talked about here, including show notes and links to everything that we've talked about. So if you skipped any part of the show, you're able to follow along as well. That's going to go live on the newsletter, sub.thursdai.news, and everywhere you get your podcast as well. There's going to be a link. If you're listening to this in the podcast form, please, the best way to support us is to leave us a comment. There's a few comments there. One of them is from Nistan. We want more comments on the podcast as well, folks. So give us a comment and give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. We are, by the way, the 8th tech news podcast in Russia. I just wanted to tell you this. Number 8 in Russia. So out of all of tech podcasts that Russians are listening to, maybe my accent is, we're the 8th. I think we're like 90 in Germany. I think we broke top 100 in the US as well. So if this is your jam, give us more stars and give us more listens in the podcast on Apple as well. We're breaking some charts. With this, folks, thank you so much for joining ThursdAI for this February 6th. I encourage you to follow up on the newsletter. Thank you everybody in the community as well who chimes in, who comments. Unfortunately, we didn't get to all those comments, but we will have all the links for you, for those who are asking for links. And we'll see you here next week. With this, bye-bye, everyone. Have a nice Thursday.